A big thank you to all of you who like, comment, subscribe and share my videos, or through other means support this channel. You are what makes this channel grow and become a resource for other people to learn from. Enough about how awesome you are, back to the video. Welcome back. In this episode you can notice that we are approaching Black Friday sales all over the place. In this case we're going to be checking out a offer that is available on Humble Bundle instead of what is available on the marketplace, because on the Humble Bundle, if you go to bundles and software, you will find here that we have a ultimate game dev assets that is directed at Unreal Engine 5 users. And how this works is that they tend to operate in tiers. So you have a tier here of getting 2 of the items, and if you pay the €1, this will of course be in your local currency. This is what you get from it. Then they have another tier here where you pay this amount and you get all of these items, including the items that you get in the previous tier, and then in the highest tier here you get everything. So in this case here you get a deal for what is normally about 1100 worth of content as it is available on assets on the marketplace. Now you can get it for 24 euros, which is much higher of a discount than the 70% that we have on the marketplace currently. So if this is of interest to you, then you might want to look into these assets. Now, all of these assets, they are available in, there's a bunch of different ones here that are, I'll go through them in a little bit in detail. I won't be going through all of them, but if you check them, you can see that they are created by Sidearm Studios. Sidearm Studios have created all of these different assets, and you can check them out on the marketplace if you want to as well, if you want to have details on specific packs, but we will be looking at some of these packs. Now, there are some pros and cons to this. The pro that is obvious, of course, is that this is a much higher discount than what you would be getting on the marketplace. The problem is, of course, that you can't pick and choose. You will be getting all of these different assets, so if there's only a few of them that you like or a few of them that you want, then maybe the discount won't be as valuable to you. Going through these assets, I have only found one asset that is a asset that has been available in the Epic Marketplace free for the month program, which is this Wild West Sky City, I believe. That's the only one I was able to recognize. There might be more, I don't think so, but keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind here is that when it comes to these assets, when you get them on Humble Bundle, they will be available as projects on Humble Bundle. So you can download them there. And having them on Humble Bundle is pretty good because you don't have to store it locally, and the download speed from Humble Bundle is pretty fast as well. The problem is that these are not keys to the Epic Marketplace store, so you don't get the items on the store. So what you get here is what the projects are like at this time. So if they were to be updated later on the marketplace, you will not be able to benefit from that. If they were to be updated to a new version or something of that nature, you would not be able to update with the pack that you have, because you have a already created project, so to speak. So those are the general pros and cons. So let's take a look at how you go about getting these and what these actually look like in detail. Once you have purchased the assets, this is what you will be tasked with. You essentially have a list of all different assets that you have in this pack, and you have a download link available to you here where you can download the assets. Once you download the asset, you will be presented with a project in a zip format. So this is essentially what you would be getting from one of these projects, or these are of course multiple projects here, but you can see that we have these zip files. Extracting these zip files, you get one of these folders. For example, there's an ancient temple here, and you can see that you have a project available to you. The project will be in Unreal Engine 5 for all of the ones that I've checked so far. I'm going to assume that all of them are for Unreal Engine 5. If that is a consideration as well, keep that in mind. Now let's jump in and see what kind of asset sets we are going to get, what kind of quality they are and style and so on. Starting off, we have a stylized medieval village, and here you can see a bunch of different houses, some effects in the form of birds flying around, some scenery for a background in form of mountains, and some effects for the chimneys and such. Also some small foliage in the form of bushes, smaller trees and such, along with fences and diverse small buildings and objects available to sell this entire asset pack. So from this you can see that this is all stylized in a specific way. It's something that's pseudo-realistic and a little bit stylized, not too much. Looking at some of the other ones, we'll see a little bit of a different nature. Next up, we have their stylized underwater level, and this is what you get in that. So you have this sort of scene where you have a simple lake kind of area set up, and then going under the water you can see what we have living down here. So you have some different vegetation and life here, along with some effects for bubbles and pillars of water shooting through the different areas here. So the stylized, again, sure it is stylized, but it's a weird kind of stylization, I think, because it feels like it's very close to what you would call almost realism. It looks pretty good though, in my opinion. Let's check out some of their more natural or real life looking asset packs. Next up, we have what is called the Ancient Temple pack. And you can see in this one that this is much closer to realism than the other stylized ones, and this one is looking pretty gorgeous. You have this scene of mystique going on here, where you have this sort of gigantic elephant-like head as a part of a depiction on the wall in form of a statue, along with some waterfall effects and such. This complete package, the whole one on Humble Bundle, will also contain some Niagara effects, which we'll get to soon. But all of these asset packs have some assets which are effects sprinkled into them as well. The last environment pack that we will be taking a look at is the Medieval Castle pack, which give you this pretty awe-inspiring looking scene, at least from a starting vantage point. So you can see here that this pack, if we take a little bit of a stroll upwards, you can see that you have some buildings which form this sort of outer hamlet or city village that is lying outside of the ramparts and protection of the walls over there for the medieval castle. And then out here in the medieval castle you can see that you have a bunch of different structures that they have put together to sell this pretty awesome looking scene. So all in all, I would say that the asset packs are pretty good. The quality are very nice, very high. So if you find something here that is of interest to you, do take a closer look and see if it is something that you might find worth buying. For now, let's check out some of their visual effects packs now. First out among the Niagara Effects visual effects packs, you can see that we have here, this pack is called Niagara Projectiles, and this is essentially the map, the demo map showing off the different projectiles that are available in this asset pack. And they consist essentially of 3 different parts. You can see that we have a sort of effect that's appearing when we are emitting the projectile, then we get the actual projectile, and when it hits we have this sort of effect of being hit as well. So it's 3-part component to the effects in general. And you can see this is the water one, and if we zoom out a little bit here you can see that they have water with different colorings. So essentially it's the same effect with small variations to color, and that's essentially all there is to it. That's not completely true, but in most cases it's true. Moving on, you can see that we have, in this case, lightning. The projectile is slightly different. The emission and hit effect is also slightly different. Behind here you can see that we have color differentiations. Moving along just the forward track should give us a good view of the different particles available. They are fairly similar, but they are a little bit different. You can see that when it comes to poison, you get this kind of globule-like effect when it's hitting. While over here, maybe we have a holy, we get some more sparks and the flashy lights. So there are some differences here for each of the different effects to sell them that they are belonging to a different school of effects, if it's like elemental or otherwise. And lastly, we have the shadow. So let's move on to the next pack and check out that. Next up, we have the explosions pack. This I would say is the weakest of the packs, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But if you can see here, this is the demo map. All of these are tied to inputs. So if I press 1, you can see there's also a press M for atomic bomb. We'll take that in the end. For now, we'll press 1. You can see we get this sort of barrel explosion. Moving on, we can see we have a car explosion, and we have debris effects, and some fire, and some more fire. And maybe at this point you have already sort of feel like this doesn't feel completely right. And in my opinion, this is because of a few things. If you check out the fires, for example, they are all very yellow, very orangey, which is not really how fire tend to look, especially when it comes to explosions. Some of these are fine. The fire effect here, also the fire trail, maybe looks a little bit too yellow. But fire in general, but in particular when it comes to explosions, are usually much more white. They are blown out when it comes to their color, and then they transition into yellow, orange, red, and then turn into black, essentially. It's like a transition, but it usually starts off pretty bright. All of these fire effects, although now we are currently on other effects like, well, here you can see the yellow here is way too consistent and apparent. And it's consistent throughout all the different fires, which gives them a weird feel. But this is of course something you can tweak and manipulate to get it closer to what you're after. But I would say that all of the ones in this pack require the most work before you can make use of them. There are things like the debris and the smoke and things like that in these, which are better than the fire effects. It's generally the fire effects that are the weakest, I would claim. And you can see again all the different fire effects, all very yellow or all very orangey. And let's end off with the finale, which is the atomic explosion, which if we press M looks like this. And this is you can see that it's moving very slowly, which is very accurate to large scale explosions. They would be very billowing and slow moving when it comes to the fire inferno that they create. However, this is not what a nuclear blast looks like. It does not form the mushroom kind of cloud that is very common when it comes to nuclear explosions. This is, however, an explosion that you could make use of for different things, but probably not sell it as a nuclear explosion anyway. Let's move on to the last pack. So this is the last pack of the Niagara effects, and the last pack that we will be checking out in this whole epic Humble Bundle asset bundle that is available currently. What you see here is AoE effects, and in this specific case it's related to poison. And these I think are pretty good. They follow some very basic animation guidelines, which essentially is when you have an effect and you want to sell its effect happening, you have a few different things that you want to keep track of. One of the things is sort of building up to something, a sense of anticipation of something, which we get from these different runes or auras that appear on the ground here. And then you have this explosion from that build-up, which is how all of these AoE effects are built up. This is good for both the effect of like understanding that something is happening and giving it a sense of oomph, but also good for things for when you're using them as effects, maybe as enemy using these effects against you. You can use the first build-up effect as sort of the trigger warning for the player that it needs to move out of a certain area before a certain thing happens and such. So it works as a warning mechanism as well when it comes to gameplay elements. Moving on, you can see we have different types. We have holy in this case. Over here we have something called arcane, and you can see them in different kinds of colorizations. Over here we have lightning effects. And then we have some ice effects which form these crystalline formations afterwards. To the left here we have shadow. Very bright lit shadows, but I guess that they could be categorized as such an element possibly. Over here we have void, and over here we have fire with some different fire effects when it comes to the different patterns that are formed on the ground also, which is kind of a nice effect. And then you have nature here lastly, which gives off these sort of twinkling and leaf-like effects, which lends a little bit of feeling to nature. Anyway, that will be all for now. I hope that this is able to inform you if this is something of interest to you or not. Anyway, that's going to be all for now. Keep on learning. Take care. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you did not like it, leave a dislike. Leave any suggestions or comments you have down below. Subscribe and share this video if you want to see more like it in the future. That is all for now. Keep on learning. Take care.